Welcome to Soundcheck with Pastor Isaac. This is episode number 82, and today we're talking about dates. Now, the dates that we're talking about aren't talking about those looking for a loved one or looking for a wife or a husband. We're talking about significant dates. Let somebody know that we're on and we're excited about teaching today about dates. And so let's get into the word. If you saw earlier, I was sitting there practicing a little bit, getting some shed time in on the drums, and I thought that was kind of fun to do. And it reminded me of some dates that I actually have had before. Actually, I can remember the first time I ever played professionally and got paid to play the drums. These are the kind of dates that we're talking about. What dates have been significant to you? What dates have just stayed in your mind? And these dates, you just can't get rid of them. Some dates are things that just stick in your mind and you will never forget them. Let's take a look at the book of Joshua and let's look at a date that happened back then that was very significant. We're looking at Joshua chapter 4, verses 5 through 9. Joshua said to them, "Pass over before the ark of Yahweh, your God, into the middle of the Jordan. And each of you pick up a stone and put it on your shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask in time to come, saying, 'What do you mean by these stones?' Then you shall tell them, because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones shall be a memorial to the children of Israel forever." The children of Israel did as Joshua commanded and took up 12 stones out of the middle of the Jordan, as Yahweh spoke to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. And they carried them over with them to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. There are certain things that are significant, certain milestones, certain things that are placed in your life. And you can look back and you can see that these things are steady. These things are like stones that have been placed there because God wants you to remember those things. And not only just you remember them, but when people ask you about your life, ask you about the things that happened in your life, you have a specific memory to help them and point them to God, because you remember what God did for you. And that's what they did when they crossed over Jordan. Joshua brought the children of Israel across Jordan, and God told them to go in the midst of Jordan, right there where the whole water had dried up and they walked over on dry ground. He said, "Bring those stones out, bring one on your shoulder, and we're going to place those 12 stones, one for each tribe." And as they did that, they made sure that they would not forget what God had done for them. And so these are the milestones that we're talking about. These are the dates that are significant in your life. I can remember back in 1981 when I got saved in September. That's a significant date. What date did you get saved? Do you know the specific day or the particular time that you got saved? Those things stick in your mind, and they are helping you to tell somebody else how God saved you and how you made it over Jordan. How about that? We also think about the days that changed our life forever. I remember one day in particular. In fact, it was there in September of 1981. There was a prayer meeting going on, and I realized that I didn't know who God was, even though I had been in church since a small child. I hadn't heard prayer like that before. And so when I realized that these people were talking to a God that I'm supposed to know, but I didn't, it was significant for me, and it changed my life. That's a significant time that I can remember back to. Also, I remember my very first job. I was a busboy and a dishwasher. Do you remember your first job? I also remember my first job that I had in the church. My first job in the church was playing drums. That was my first job. Now, I didn't get paid for it, yet I got paid for it. I didn't get paid in physical money, but I'm blessed because I was able to give my gifting and give my talent unto the Lord. In fact, I remember there was a worship leader there, and he told me he wanted me to play drums, and I insisted on playing the bass. And I wasn't ready for that because I hadn't practiced enough, but I thought I was ready. And so he allowed me to play one time, and he said, "Brother, we love you, but play the drums." And so sometimes those significant dates, even the times we messed up, Those are back in our mind. Why? To remind us that God deserves excellence. Not the rest, but he deserves our best. And so we got to make sure that we give God the very best in all things that we do. Do you remember your first driver's license? The day you got your driver's license? I do. I also remember the very day that I got my license to minister the gospel. I will be responsible for those that are riding on the words that I have gotten from the Lord. That's a significant license right there. You need to be mindful of those things that God gives you. They're not small things. They're big things before God. And we need to keep those things as significant and as important, making sure that we cultivate those things and take care of them. Don't let them slip away. Don't let them just haphazardly go because we're not paying attention to the things that God wants us to do with the giftings that he's placed inside of you. What about when you were growing up and you had that first pet? Do you remember your first pet? I do. My sister, she had a turtle. That was her first pet. And then after that, we had a cat. And that cat name was Tom. And so that cat was our first significant pet that we had as a child. But I also remember that we also are responsible for those that we take care of. We take care of our children. We take care of our spouses. We take care of our family and friends that need our help. We also take care of those that are in need around us, those in the neighborhood. We have a lot of fatherless children. We have a lot of people that need your help. And those are the people that we need to take care of them. Not like a pet, not like feeding them and walking them and things like that, but actually spending some quality time with them. Why? Because it's important and God wants you to take care of them even more so than you would have your pet. And so those are the types of things I'm thinking about. Now, 1989 was another significant time. That's when the Lord spoke to Apostle Foreman at the time and asked him to let me lead the music department. Back then, the music department consisted of a couple of choirs and the worship team, and it also had the sound department, and it was basically was like two guys and a microphone. It was very, very small at the time, but God caused that ministry to continue to grow. We had at one time 4 worship teams, about 4 choirs at the same time. The youth choir, the young adult choir, the senior choir, and the sanctuary choir. All these things were functioning at the same time. We grew into a drum corps. We also grew into a over 30-piece orchestra. So these things are significant as God places things in you to cause ministry to grow. You should see it growing. You should see God using you to cause things to happen and cause things to prosper. That's when we know that the dates that God has given us are significant, not just that we did it ourselves. And I'm not bragging saying I did any of that. I know that God did it while I was there. That's all I can say. He caused it to happen. He caused it to flourish. He caused it to grow. He caused it to grow. Do you remember the first child that was born in your family that you remember as a baby? Do you remember having your very own first child? I do. And I remember each child as they were significant as they were born. Each one of them is important. And so each one of those milestones are in my life. You need to remember the milestones that are in your life. I remember the marriage of my children. 2 of them are married right now, and we're still waiting for the other 2 to get married. But these milestones are things that you will never forget. And these are those times that you can look back and say, look what the Lord has done. Also, I can remember the first time I was on an airplane. How many of you guys ever been on a plane? My first time riding on a plane was in 1978. I'll never forget it. It was a very frightening experience, yet it was so exhilarating. It was so exciting to get on the plane and to enjoy that ride. And I know that milestones of the first day of school, the first day of middle school, first day of high school, all those things flood back in your memories when you think about those things. How about the first day that you thought about graduating, getting your cap and gown ready? But how about the actual graduation? That even supersedes the thinking about it, but actually going through and doing it. High school, going through university, also going through Bible college. All those are significant graduation dates that I remember. Some people remember their retirement. I haven't done that yet. But some people remember the retirement because these are things that are going to be significant in their life. They can sit back in the rocking chair and tell others how they got over, how God brought them through, how they came over their Jordan, how they were able to be victorious. Those are the milestones you need to tell somebody about. Now, this is a God story. That's what you need to start it out by saying. This is a God story. God is all up in this story because God brought me through. Tell your story. Tell somebody about how God brought you through. I'm excited about that, and I hope that you are as well. Now, I'm at the age where I also enjoy seeing other people's children graduate and other people's children reach the milestones in their lives. And we need to cultivate that thing and nurture those children, letting them know that you can do it. It's important that they succeed. Why? Because this is the next generation that we want to see continue the things not only in the world, but the things in the church, the things of God, the things in your family, the things in your neighborhood. We want success, and we want to see our children completely successful. Now, do you remember that very big job that you ever had to do? The very first time you had something to do? Remember the very big responsibility that God gave you to do when he gave you something to do in the ministry. Yes, he's given each one of us something to do. It's not just on us to just sit there and worship, but he also wants us to encourage one another. Be that shoulder that somebody can talk to. Be that shoulder that somebody can cry on. Be that arm that can reach out and hold somebody and help them through that moment when they need you. It's so important that we don't let our brothers down. We don't let our brothers die. We don't let our brothers feel like they're all by themselves. These are milestones in their lives, and they need to know that you're there for them when they're going through. I'm happy that we're doing this today, because sometimes you think about when your best friend moved away or when you had to move away from your best friend. And sometimes it feels like we're so lonely and we're all by ourselves. But I tell you what, Jesus is always with us. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. And he will always encourage us and cause us to be victorious. And eventually we'll reconnect with those friends. If they are genuine friends, we will reconnect with them. There are some friends that are silver. There are some friends that are gold. And those golden friends will never go away. Just like when you finally meet your friend again after many years, it's just like nothing ever missed in between. God will always cause those things to continue. And so just wanted to remember those things. Think about those significant dates that are in your life. I've just mentioned a few of them. There are so many more significant dates that you could think about. How God saved you, how God healed you, how God brought you out of that situation, how God caused that situation that seemed like it was impossible, he turned it around just for you. He's done it for me. He's done it so many times. I can remember times where I was sick and God healed me. In fact, when I was 18 days old, I had an operation. Because I didn't know anything about it, my mom had to tell me about it. I still got the scar right there to remind me of who God is and where God wanted me to go. That wasn't my end, but there was another end. That was another destiny that God wanted me to have. That was a significant date. And this date is continuing to move on because God is continuing to move in me and through me. So I hope this is encouraging you today. I hope this blessed you. I hope that you're thinking about the significant dates that you have in your life that you can also share with those that talk about, hey, what happened to you? How'd that happen? How'd you get through it? Tell them about it. Let them know it was a God story. That's the whole point right there. This is a God story, and your life is a God story, a story how God is bringing you through, a story of how God is causing you to be victorious. And I challenge you to continue to do what God called you to do. Now I'm gonna get back in here and play some more drums. You enjoy your day. I'll see you again next week. God bless you.